That's the front of it. Right.
Yeah.
Rally the cats, I like that. Oh, we're gonna rally. I don't know if I need to fire them up, but
Can't hurt them. Go on now.
I don't want to smash the gavel, so.
I didn't know it was kind
Well, congratulations.
You make it go up.
This side, there you go.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is a meeting of the Transportation Agency for Monterey County. I'm going to call us to order. And before we do anything else, I'm going to see if Mayor LaBarre doesn't mind leading us in the pledge this morning.
Thank you, Chair. With me again, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, and with that, I'm going to ask staff to take us through a quorum check / roll.
District 1 Supervisor Alejo.
Alternate, Javier here.
District 2 Supervisor Church.
Present.
District 3 Supervisor Lopez.
Present.
District 4 Supervisor Askew. Here. District 5 Supervisor Adams. Here. City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yeah.
City of Del Rio.
Here.
City of Gonzales.
Here.
City of Greenfield. City of King City.
Present.
City of Marina.
Here.
City of Monterey.
Present.
City of Pacific Road.
Here.
City of Salinas.
Here.
City of Sand City. Here. City of Seaside.
Here.
City of Soledad.
Alternate here.
Ambac.
Here.
Caltrans District 5.
Here.
Monterey Bay Air Resource District. Monterey Regional Airport District. Monterey Salinas Transit.
Here.
City of Watsonville. CSUNB.
Present.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, and with that, we're going to jump into public comments. Before we do that, I just want to state that in my review of the minutes, there was an issue with item 5 that needs to be addressed, specifically the use of the word may be included should have been include or will include. And so I know that I've had a few folks reach out ahead of time to share that they're going to make a public comment on that. And I just wanted to state that before we go through public comment so that there's no confusion. With that, I'm going to open public comment. I'm going to go with folks in the room first. We're going to allow 2 minutes per speaker. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to make a public comment regarding items not on today's agenda, but within the purview of this particular body? Please come forward.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for your unanimous decision at the April board meeting requesting Caltrans to carry out the 9 intersection pilot project to implement adaptive signal operations along the whole Highway 68 corridor. And as we heard, the amendment, thank you. As you probably know, Todd sent a letter to Scott Eads at Caltrans informing him of the position and also outlining a positive and realistic scope of work, which I was pleased to see focused on the whole corridor. As you will hear from Dwight later on in a moment, I think Caltrans have asked BioVision for a quote to implement a 9 intersection pilot project. So this is very good news indeed for us, for the whole community, I believe. However, surprisingly, I'm now hearing that TAMC staff say they would recommend a 4 intersection pilot rather than a 9 intersection pilot, even if Caltrans say they'll do a 9. So this is no factual reasons have been given by TAMC to us for this positioning. Only questions relating to existing 2070 controllers, which have all been fully answered by the engineers. So from a public point of view, the relationship between TAMC and Caltrans seems to be a seesaw to me. We continually hear from TAMC say that's a Caltrans decision. We cannot tell them what to do. And now we're hearing if Caltrans wants to do 9, we will recommend doing 4. So please, let's all get on the same page here. and ensure that the TAMC board's unanimous decision recommendation is actioned as soon as possible by town council for all the way in sections. And since there is not a TAMC board meeting in July, if an acceptable proposal arrives at Caltrans in the near future, in the near term, and funding decisions have to be made by TAMC board to help facilitate the pilot project, then the board needs to be in a position to act swiftly without pushback from TAMC staff. Hopefully, you as board members will all be able to put a process in place to ensure no such delay will happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the room who wishes to make public comment at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll go online. I do see a phone number that begins with 805 and ends in 2837. We'll go ahead and give you the floor. You have the ability to unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, Brian Rosen here. I don't think TAMC really cares about what the public thinks. I called in during the executive committee meeting about 20 seconds after 9 a.m. and I was precluded from being able to comment. And this is how much all of you really care about the public, despite whatever lip service you're saying otherwise. You know, not precluding the public at 20 seconds into a meeting, my God. TAMC's history of deception to the public is sad. The CalCog describes what Todd Muck says. The railway right-of-way is 100 feet with tracks in the center, allowing enough room for the dedicated BRT lanes to leave the railroad tracks intact. MST and TAMC say this repeatedly all over the internet. A quote from Todd Muck: "Our goal is to improve everything we touch," said Todd Muck, Deputy Executive Director of TAMC. "We don't want to benefit one mode of transportation at the expense of another." How we know that SURF would definitely harm resumption of rail service. Having to do a new rail alignment is extremely expensive and involves environmental destruction of the dunes. The report says a subsequent feasibility study looked at placing along highway shoulders and along the Monterey branch line. The analysis found that while work in areas of Santa Cruz County, the railroad right-of-way was a better option in Monterey because certain Highway 1 bridges are not wide enough to convert to bus lanes. Another misrepresentation: shoulders can be widened under bridges. However, one underpass would have to be widened on the ocean side. Check it out for yourself. Why not fairly study bus on shoulder in the 4-mile section between Sand City and Marina? Meters synchronized with MST buses can be placed on on-ramps to avoid conflicts. School buses can also use a lane. I saw school buses stalled in traffic. They will continue to be stalled because they're not allowed on the SURF busway.
All right, thank you very much. With that, I'm going to go to the next phone number. I do just want to clarify that that item is on today's agenda. If there's any other speakers who wish to speak to that item, I'm going to ask that you wait until the appropriate time, but out of an abundance of passion for public engagement, I allow that comment to continue at this time. I'm going to go to number 2082. Phone number ending in 2082. The floor is now yours. You have 2 minutes. You have the ability to unmute yourself.
Yes, good morning. Our Monterey Bay Sanctuary is one of the most important sanctuaries in the world, and your role is to protect it with good transportation policies and limited growth. Monterey Bay Sanctuary is one of the most important sanctuaries in the world because of its phytoplankton bloom, which feeds the world's marine life populations once a year. Source: Blue Planet. The phytoplankton has shells, and research scientists have discovered the acidification from the carbon emissions is thinning their shells. Phytoplankton supplies 70% of the world's oxygen. So if we do the math, basically we're suffocating our planet with each drive we take, each tree we cut, and each building we build. TAMC received $9 million to buy right-of-way for the San Francisco-Monterey Rail project in 2003, which they did. Instead of bringing...
Later. So if you could keep your comments to items not on today's agenda, we'd appreciate that.
I am. This is not on the agenda. I'm just explaining that instead of voting for the making the train possible in all those 21 years, you have brought massive traffic problems. And that is the problem here. You play a huge role in reducing global climate change, and you need to vote to stop the SURF and to bring the rail. That's your job.
That's the very item on the agenda. We look forward to hearing from you during that item. Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, I do have a speaker card from Barry Jones. Barry Jones of Madera Court, Monterey. Oh, I'm sorry, that's.
Well,
that was
yes,
the one
I-
on- Mr. Stump, were you
Yes.
my other speaker on item 5?
Yes, I'd like to make a general statement.
Sure, please.
Okay. In April, the board voted unanimously to recommend that Caltrans install AI adaptive signal controls at all 9 intersections on Highway 68 as a pilot study to determine how much it would improve traffic as compared to the simulated results of the 9 roundabouts. It was stated that Caltrans would make the final decision and that TAMC would help support the project. So, how much actual funding will TAMC supply and from what source, and does the board need to approve the expenditure? Caltrans has been in active communication with MileVision, a supplier of adaptive systems, and asked for a quote to install adaptive at all 9 intersections. The estimated total for that is only $245,000, which is $110,000 more than the cost of doing the 4 intersections that Doug had originally proposed. Doug also stated that financing may ultimately limit the number of signals in the pilot study. So if Caltrans believes that doing all 9 intersections is the best way to test the performance of the system, will TAMC commit to provide the total amount or at least supplement the balance necessary above available Caltrans funds to implement what the board voted to do? It is my understanding that Caltrans is in the process of making decisions now, but do they know the level of funding provided by TAMC? With the board not meeting again until August, it seemed important to decide on the funding commitment now. The cost of doing all 9 is certainly much less than the $1 million cost of the DEIR for the roundabouts and is a small percentage of the $50 million of Measure X funds that are set aside for the Highway 68 project. I urge the board to request that TAMC staff fully support the board's vote to do adaptive at all 9 intersections and let Caltrans know for certain that funding from TAMC is committed to do just that if Caltrans feels that is the best way to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stump. See no other hands up and nobody else coming forward in the room. I'm going to close public comment. We'll proceed to our consent agenda, and again, clarifying that there was an item that needed just that clarification. Todd, can you point out where that, as we spoke about, where that correction needs to be made on item 5?
Yes, it's item 3.1.1, the approval of the April 24th board minutes. It's a correction to item number 5. And in that item, it says request that Caltrans pursue interim operational improvements along the corridor, focusing on signal coordination. And in the way we had written it in the minutes was may include, and the correction is to change may include to include a pilot project to implement adaptive signal operations with the recommendation to include all 9 signals in the pilot project.
So my request, that was confirmed on the record from a revision of the meeting itself. And so with that, I want to open it up to members of this body, see if there's anybody who wishes to pull an item from consent for comment or question. I see Supervisor Askey.
Yeah, I need to pull item 3.2.4, which is a contract with Ecology Action. I do sit on the board of the nonprofit Ecology Action, and so I
For
should
separate
avoid
vote.
any perception of conflict. I'd like to have a separate vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 3.3.1, which is the North Monterey County Regional Transportation Board. There, I have some comments, questions, comments on it.
Okay, perfect. At this point, I'm going to see if the public has any items they wish to pull as well for comment. I see no hands up in room. I do see a hand up on by phone 2837. If you could unmute yourself just to share which item you wish to speak on. Two 2837. I'm going to go to 2082 and ask which item you wish to speak on.
I wish to speak on all the items involving the SURF project. Please.
Excuse me, ma'am, be more specific. We're on the consent agenda. If we're not aware of any SURF project items in the consent, is there a specific item you would like to pull from consent?
No, thank you. I'm not at a computer, so it's hard for me to see what your items are. So I just wanted to clarify if there's any items that involve the SURF project I'd like to.
3.52.
Up to 3.5.
2837. Let's try you again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
we can. Which item
Hi,
did you
I
wish to
want
speak to?
I want to speak on item 3.22, list of unmet transit needs, and I want to speak on item 3.52, having a use agreement with MST to provide for the use of the Monterey Branch corridor for the Surf busway.
Okay, then thank you very much. I'll come back to you here in a minute. I'm gonna go to Supervisor Church first.
Sure. Looking at the question more for and staff can help me on this. You're looking at this project, what this contract is for, I should say. I realize it's to really identify transportation infrastructure that's going to be at risk of discharge, but there's a certain really strong public outreach plan to this. I understand where getting input from some stakeholders would be important in identifying these areas, but I'm trying to understand how the outreach to the public and how we're doing that and how their input's coming in terms of identifying the risks. It seems more of a technical question here on identifying these risks. I mean, I'm a pretty big opponent, excuse me, of public outreach. Probably more so than just about anybody else around, but I'm not understanding quite how that fits into here, and I'm also just concerned on sometimes on not just how we do it, but pretty much all government agencies really, I think, are inadequate and sometimes getting public input. So I wonder if you could explain how this all fits in.
Sure, and Alyssa Günther is the project manager, and I'll let her correct me if I'm wrong. But what part of what this is, in addition to just getting public input on the process, is also to public education, so that as we go through and identify risks, it's one thing for us to hear about them, but another for the public to understand what's at risk. So that's part of the process.
So it's more of I mean, while we're obviously taking input, it's really has a heavy educational aspect to it, is what we're doing, is what I understand.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, Alyssa Günther, Georgia Education Center. I'm the manager on the project, and the public outreach will definitely include education. It will also include opportunities for the public to provide their own experiences with the climate hazards. So we want to provide in-person opportunities to do that with planning on providing maps to show region where members of the public can indicate where they've experienced hazards, as well as an online mapping tool. So we're going to have the education of understanding what's at risk and what we aim to achieve with the plan, but then also give the public the opportunity to provide their own experiences and show their priorities for the region. And I've been talking with community members already, and we really want to have a holistic approach or go to existing.
Excuse me, can I interrupt here for just a second?
Sorry, you can. No,
I
I'm sorry.
I
No,
want,
I'm sorry. No, now's not the time. We'll come back to you. Alyssa, go ahead.
Yes, so working with existing community groups, nonprofit alliances, to have that public outreach that's not just us coming and telling community what they need, but hearing that.
So one of the things that's changed over the years, not in the recent years, when you're applying for grant applications, is showing a really robust public outreach process is very helpful for future grants. So this will help that component.
Okay. Well, again, to really get some input and education out, I think you have a lot. I think a lot of times I'm seeing just the cities, the counties, other agencies. Sometimes we're not going out in the right way to push that information out. So I hope that you take maybe a creative approach to that. I would really suggest using a lot of social media, but not just advertising like on our website and different things, but you got to get out to next door and various other aspects. really get people to engage then. And anyway, I looked at that, and I just want to make sure that we're putting money and efforts and resources in there, that it's really going to be beneficial. And I'm glad to see about the educational aspect of it too. Thank you.
All right, at this time, yeah.
I think we all agree with that. You know, a fresh look about how do we do outreach? You know, we heard about the stakeholders, right? But what about just the average person? So I look forward to hearing that in different venues about our total outreach.
All right, I'm gonna go to online, insert comments on 3.3.1. I had nobody speak up and say they wanted to speak on this item, but I do have 2 hands up, so I'm gonna check. Number 2837, do you wish to speak on 3.3.1? Okay, not unmuting, I'm gonna go to numbers 2082. Do you wish to speak on item 3.3.1?
Yes, thank you. Could you please clarify what that item is?
It is the Monterey County Transportation Vulnerability Assessment Planning Contract, specifically focused, the comments from Supervisor Church on the North County engagement.
Okay, thank you. No, I do not need to comment on that. I
Okay,
do need to comment on 3.22 and 3.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back on that. I'm gonna go to
No, I just said, I think I heard that voice and I think she's waiting for 3.5. Yeah.
yeah.
Just
Okay.
to help her out, knowing that, let her know it's coming up.
Yeah. 3.5. Right. Okay, so at this time, any other questions on 3.3.1? Hearing none, we'll go to the next item that the public wish to pull, which was 3.5.2, which is the MST corridor use agreement for the Surf Busway and Bus Rapid Transit Project. I'm gonna go to 2082 first. I think you just remuted yourself. There you
Hello,
go. Now,
I'm trying to find out if I was muted or not. So I don't want to pull this item. I want to talk on it. I would like to comment on it, please.
this is the time.
Okay. This is a fatal project. The Monterey Surf project is just about development, and it completely and will destroy any ability for us to avert the coming climate change we're experiencing in our area with more building and more traffic problems, because the surf has a transfer underneath a underpass, and that kills the time that it would take for what surface is supposed to do, which is cut time. And no one wants to get out in the rain and the wind in the night to go under an underpass and change buses that may not even arrive on time. And so this is what's happening with MST all over, with all the many of these stops, and I'm experiencing it. So this project, you need to bring back the train. You voted to kill the train last TAMC meeting, everyone but Potter. And I'm just horrified. We're not going to be making it with people like you in positions of power. We're not going to be able to meet the deadline to avert climate change. And I think you should really start studying what climate change is doing to our oceans and ourselves and your children's future, and start voting for a train, because the train people love to take. And you've had 21 years to bring back the train, and you're not doing it. And I just find that horrifying. Or just horrifying that people like you can sit there on the board and vote unanimously, except for Mr. Potter, to kill the rail like you did last meeting. So please do not continue illegal votes to bring in more money for the surf and bring in the carpool and the bus carpool lane, and do what's right for our peninsula.
Thank you. I'm going to go to number 2837 on the same item.
Is this
Have you skipped over item 3.22?
No, I'm coming back to that. We're currently on 352.
Okay, I just want to say right now that it's not legal right now to use the rail corridor for surf, according to the CTC. and the CTC says TAMC has to pay them back at fair market value for the corridor. By the way, do we get 3 minutes or 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Okay, so basically, they're not even allowed to use the corridor right now, that they have to pay them back at fair market value. And the Coastal Commission hasn't, okayed the surf project. It hasn't been in front of it, but District Manager Kevin Karn stated in his May 17, 2024 letter that a busway is not coastal compliant and is not allowed because it's not a use that is dependent on an ESHA resource such as habitat restoration. Also, he states the busway will preclude rail. For one, he states if somehow surf is approved, he says in his words, any such approval would limit the allowed development footprint and would require everything else in the corridor to be enhanced, restored, and deed restricted against any future development. As he states later in the letter, surf would use up all development potential, thereby precluding rail service. So you guys are killing rail, and now you're trying to get MST a use agreement, but they don't even have the legal use to use the line until you take care of all that stuff first. And you're just jumping the gun by trying to get a use permit. You need to wait until the CTC and the Coastal Commission make a formal decision and stop putting the cart before the horse, Stop moving ahead when you don't even have the right to use the corridor. You have to buy it first. You have to have rightful possession of the corridor. And we need to determine the legality of surf on the corridor before you keep making more decisions. And how many hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars have been wasted on this project that is unlikely to be approved because it's not coastal compliant, it's not going to be found coastal compliant, it precludes rail. Dave Potter is the only one who seems to care amongst all of you, and all of you are just jumping the gun on this. And TAMC, you need to stop saying the two can share the corridor. Enough is enough. So please say no on this. Get some answers first, and stop trying to kill rail, please. And stop the lip service.
Member Delgado?
Yeah, I think a lot of us support rail. We had a similar issue come to the Marina City Council recently. Not this issue, but very similar. We were discussing whether the cart was before the horse, kind of like the speakers just before me. And Lisa Reinheimer of MST summarized a timeline that MST is trying to fit. So while some of us support rail, if MST is going to be able to get through these hurdles, I don't think want to stop them because we don't have rail right now or any real potential for it in the near future. I don't know that it hurts to let MST take this step, but I'd like to hear from MST if this doesn't happen, if we don't approve this today, does it affect that timeline that they're under to get their funding sources and everything else in order?
Mr. Sidora, do you want to respond?
Yeah. Do I need a microphone or am I?
You're good. Just
Okay,
project toward-
CEO for Monterey Salinas Transit District. Yes, we do have communications from the Federal Transit Administration that they would like to see all permits in place by the end of June and the Coastal Commission permit in place no later than September 15th. Otherwise, our federal funds become at risk. That is due to the potential of while the SURF funds are in the Biden budget that was approved starting for the fiscal year October 1st, the $22.1 million are in the budget. They're not secured under contract. The concern is that should the administration change in January or the Senate change in January, those budget commitments become at risk. And so our partners at the Federal Transit Administration are encouraging us, and we have a meeting later this afternoon for a status update, to have every permit in place before their deadline to put our contract put together so that we can have a signed contract with them by the end of the calendar year. So we have a very real deadline on this project that goes from certainty to, looking at palming a flip of the coin. So that is our concern.
Chair, can you clarify with staff if we're talking about a permit right now?
Well, it's a use The permit, yeah.
Question to staff. I'm sorry, now we're talking about permit.
A use permit for the,
A use agreement, I think, is on the agenda today.
yes, it's a use agreement.
Is that a permit?
Um, we don't have a permit process for TAMC for building on the right of way, so it's essentially this, I mean, it's essentially the same thing. It's an agreement where we've outlined the conditions where they can build the project and operate and maintain the project for the designated time period of the agreement. And it also includes quite a few specific conditions that allow rail to be implemented in the future. And I'd also want to note that it has a condition that TAMC can terminate the agreement if the CERT project is not built within 5 years. So if all other things happen that the CERT project does not go into construction, we control the ability to terminate the agreement.
Do you opine that within the FTC's perspective, this is a permit?
I'm sorry, the FTC?
Federal Transportation Commission?
Uh,
Federal Transit Administration, and the FTA Transit Administration is calling this a permit. This is part of the documentation that they are seeking to assure that we have the ability to spend the money that they are going to provide. It also includes agreements with the CTC, the agreements and other permits. So it is, they're attempting to determine whether we have the ability to move forward and agreements to move forward locally before the federal government is always the last dollar in. So they before they're the last dollar in, they want to make certain that everybody's on board. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on this particular item? All right,
Which one is this?
we're on the 3.5.2, which is the
Okay, I got it. There was a couple comments about this somehow kills rail. Right, and I understand that the speakers, I don't think they're making up words when they're talking about Coastal Commission saying that this may put rail in the future in jeopardy. But from our staff, our executive director, does this kill rail? And I think we need to explain to the public, when we're talking about rail, we're talking about, I don't know, 20, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years out before we actually have money. So we're trying to fill that gap. That's kind of like why this decision is funny. We're not picking one or the other. And I think maybe 20, 25 years from now, when they have the money, the need may override the surplus. So when someone says today, it's a conflict that you're precluding rail, you know, those conclusions go out the window 20 years from now when new people are doing the thinking. So could you just speak on that?
The desire for rail is different from the practical ability to implement rail. And we have a strong desire and a commitment for rail in the corridor. But the reality is there's not the funding, there's not the state support, the ability to implement rail in the next 20 plus years. We're in the state rail plan as a vision service, which is 20 to 50 years out. And the CERT busway will allow us to utilize the corridor, provide a public benefit as an interim step as we continue to work towards the ultimate goal for rail. And this agreement includes quite a few conditions to allow us to implement rail and to plan for rail while the busway is in operation. So I think the idea that it's killing rail is just incorrect.
Oh, no, that was my follow-up, but just clearly, this vote is not to kill rail. Right, okay.
okay.
Chair, may I make a clarifying comment? Just some words that I use that may have been imprecise when I use the word permit. The FTA is looking for all third-party agreements. That is the exact terminology that there. So anyone that we need to get approval from that is a third party, other than the FTA and MST, that's what we're seeking to have in place.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. All right, Chair Chief. I'm gonna go to Supervisor Adams.
Thank you. Just a question. Will we be seeking or do we have a use agreement at this point with the Coastal Commission?
We are on planning to be on the Coastal Commission for a permit for their portion of the rail line. September 11th or 12th is their next meeting here on the Central Coast. So that is when they will be making their determination at that time. We still don't have a staff report from Coastal Commission. I'm meeting regularly with their staff and with their commissioners to continue to clarify their questions on how this project supports many of our shared goals for this project, including greenhouse gas reduction, sea level rise, coastal access, environmental justice, and support of affordable housing in our corridor. Those are concerns of the overarching concerns and policy objectives of the Coastal Commission that are supported by this project. So we are working with them to show them that this project does more good for them, and that we have committed to restoring 3 times the amount of ESHA that is being harmed in this process. And we've identified and have agreements in place with the Fort Ord Dude State Park and with Monterey County Regional Parks to restore property that they have in the coastal corridor that is covered in invasive ice plant. This project will use funds that we have available to us to do a 3-to-1 restoration and accelerate that restoration. So that's what we're working with Coastal Commission on.
Have you gotten any sort of sense of what their appetite is for this project?
I have a sense from the coastal commissioners that I've spoken to that they are in generally in support of this project because of the reasons I just gave you. From the staff perspective, the Coastal Act is tricky. And we are going to have to demonstrate, I think, through our mitigation program to show them that this 3-to-1 mitigation, which is exactly the same as the Fort Ord Dude State Park campground. We are using that as our model because it was also a public benefit project like ours that was in the coastal zone that required ESHA mitigation. And it is literally within a stone's throw of our project. They actually butt up against one another. And this is a precedent that the Coastal Commission has already approved. And we are showing them that this is a path forward for them. This is something they've done before for a similar project. We're just asking to be treated as equals to Fort Ord Dude State Park campground.
So just final question then, if this group is uncomfortable with approving 3.5.2 today, would it be detrimental to us if we waited until after the Coastal Commission's decision?
Yes,
Can you
because we
tell
do not
us
have a third-party agreement in place. This is a required third-party agreement.
before you can get to the Coastal Commission?
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
Mary Velasquez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you for the discussion on this. I know that there's been a lot of different concerns, but I also want to point out before you get to this point where you have an agreement before you, this project's been in the works for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, and there has been robust discussion out in the community to be able to engage community stakeholders, to be able to obtain and seek feedback from the community, to be able to look at what are the benefits, what are some of the challenges. And I think at this point also, there's been a lot of funding sources that have been committed to this project. So I think that's really important also to keep in mind. I know the MST staff has done a lot of mitigation in terms of how do we really make sure that this project moves forward in a way that is, environmentally friendly. But I think at the end also, the purpose of the transit system is to ensure that we provide that public transportation in a very safe manner, equitable manner to the residents of our community. And I think the agreement you have before you will allow for that process to continue. The agreement language that you have in your packet does state really clearly some of the conditions that if the project doesn't move forward in 5 years, then it doesn't happen. And it also states that, as Todd said, that if there's, for whatever reason, we may get an influx of rail money, then this project can move forward with some of the rail projects that this committee wants to move forward with. Thank you.
So sensing that we might have some disagreement here on this particular item, what I'm going to ask is that if somebody has a motion on this item alone, separate from the rest of the consent. I've got a motion. Is there a second for approval? Thank you. Ed, do you have final thoughts before I call for a vote on this?
Yes, I always look to what the voters directed me. When I think back to the Measure X initiative that passed, the voters had the opportunity to weigh in for funding, partial funding for the Surfway, and I believe it was 15 million in the Measure X.
Yes.
Was that
Yes.
correct? So I look to say that the voters approved Measure X, and thank goodness they understood it. They voted for a variety of things, among them FORTAG and the distribution of funding to the different cities to move transportation along. The voters spoke and declared that the Surfway project, with their vote of the 15 million to that project, was important to them. So I just want to say that I agree with that. Thank you, Anna. You highlighted a lot of the things where the funding has been coming to this direction to move this project along. And the word to me, where we look at rail versus MST, it's really the wrong statement. There are places where things can coexist. And I think that that's where this is leading to, where we have the space. And if we appropriately design things, things can coexist. So in the future, we can have rail and we can have a Surfway transportation system with MST with this agreement. So I just look at this as not an end to rail, and many members here have said that they are not against rail, and I too am not against rail. Some of the speakers today have been voicing their opinion that they believe that my vote represents against the rail, and it does not. And I just would say that at the city council meeting and here, they believe that a vote today of supporting MST is death nail to rail, and I disagree with that. I think it coexists. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. There you go.
Yeah, Anna talked about community stakeholders and Ed talked about rail. There are similar reasons that Monterey City opposed the light rail going into Monterey. So then after that, the project for rail was to terminate and Seaside did not go into Monterey. Those reasons mainly were that Monterey did not want to foul the view of Windows by the Bay and bring a train downtown Del Monte. Citizens in Marina have similar concerns, but there's a small number, about a dozen, who are very vocal about the marring and their opinion of the vista and the noise and the dust. That's their perspective, but similar to Monterey's opposition to light rail going into Monterey. And so when we talk about community stakeholders, I want to bring up the fact that the hurdles that MST is going through are not 100% certain. And one thing the community in Marina likes a lot is the handcars, whose lease is up in October. So I hope that in the name of community, if the MST doesn't make it through the Coastal Commission hurdles or any other thing that happens, that MST is delayed, that we extend the lease of the handcars if we're talking about community. And I know that they've burned the bridges and it's a different issue, but I just wanted to mention that this idea about coexisting bus and rail, I don't believe it, because we were told that it was too expensive to align the bus outside of the railroad. And so the bus is crisscrossing the railroad because we can't afford to coexist them now. Likely we're going to increase in the future. I highly doubt we're going to be able to keep the busway and then build a rail corridor in the same alignment. But I hope that SURF does what MST and others at TAMC has said all along, that we get people used to using better mass transit in this corridor, and one day rail can replace the bus, in part because the bus has increased ridership in the corridor. So I do support SURF because I think it will support rail in the long run, but I don't agree that they're going to coexist. Because I don't think we're ever going to have, oodles of money to do both, when right now we can't even do both. So,
All right, so
I'd just like to ask staff, what if the proposal for rail program came forward in the next 5 years?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What
happened
happened if the proposal for rail service comes forward in the next 5 years instead of 25?
The agreement, the use agreement, which is what we're talking about, would allow us, we would have to work within the maintaining the busway in the corridor. And so they'd have to coexist for the agreement.
Even though the busway paves over a certain amount of traffic.
Yes, but the tracks will have to be replaced regardless, so we need
Another
to,
alignment.
we'd have to be doing some work one or the other. There's examples of the alignments being the same spot, basically rails going through a road. You could have, there's various options. We did not want to go into design and the cost of trying to solve this problem when we didn't know what it would be, what the design of a rail would look like in the future.
Supervisor Estes.
Just one comment as we talk about stakeholders, and I appreciate I represent Marina Seaside, did a good section of where we're talking about. And we do have stakeholders who are currently here. We also have stakeholders who can't yet vote and can't yet have their voice. So when I got my driver's license, when I was 16, 50% of 16-year-olds had their driver's license. If you look at that statistic today, it's 25%. The cost of operating and owning cars is increasing. The housing that we're building right now along transit corridors doesn't include parking requirements. So the need for mass transit to get people from Marina into Monterey is only going to increase. And our job as a transportation agency is to figure out what options are available to us, what is our ideal, what's in the reality that exists. And at this point, the reality that exists is a bus route. Those people who don't ride a bus now may not ever ride this bus, but this project isn't about me sitting here today. This project is about the generation to multiple generations. So I remain supportive and absolutely look forward to a day when maybe I'm an old woman and I could ride the rail into Monterey from Marina, but I just don't see the reality of that being feasible in the near future. So I do want to solve this problem. We've got thousands of residents sitting in traffic that just gets worse and worse and worse every single day. So we owe it to our residents and our community to take action, move forward in the way that's most realistic with the available options to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor LaBarre. All right,
Let me just add something about May Chair.
final comment here, and then I'm gonna call for the question.
As our communities continue to grow, we do need to solve this mass transportation. Because my community wants to grow, my community wants to add more citizens, and if they drive cars, they drive cars. And so I agree with TAMC's job is to fix that transportation problem, right? And I just throw that mark out here, because when I go back in town, it's about, well, there's too many people, you don't need to grow because there's too much traffic. Communities need to grow. People need to have a place to live and work, and hopefully closer together.
I appreciate the robust discussion and acknowledge that we all have different opinions and we're not gonna move very far from where we're currently standing. So I'm gonna, at this point, go ahead and ask for a roll call.
Excuse me, are we voting on the whole consent agenda?
No,
Which not
this motion was just on 35 point.
This one was 3.5, yeah.
3.5. I'm sorry, 5 and 2. Oh.
District 1, alternate Gomez.
Aye.
District 2, Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4, Supervisor Askew.
I
District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rio.
Aye.
City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey.
Aye.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Aye.
City of Sand City.
Aye.
City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad.
Aye.
Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I guess it did belong on consent. We just needed a lot. My apologies for not having spotted that to remove it. At this point, I'm going to come back. I did have an additional request for comment on 322. I'm going to go to number 2082, give you that opportunity. 2082, I'm going to ask you to keep it relevant to that item.
It is unmet needs, right? Transit unmet needs?
Correct.
Okay, so now let me start my 2 minutes. So the unmet needs are things like the bus line from Monterey to Carmel Valley, just to give you an example. Now you have to transfer. Whether it's raining, you have to cross the street, heavy traffic, you have to breathe in all that pollution, you have to wait 15 minutes for the next bus. If the first bus is late, then you miss that bus and it takes an hour. This is going to happen with the surf line. This is already happening in all the other transit inner city transit bus situations that make people like me that want to get out of our car, we can't anymore. It's just too inconvenient and it's too long and you miss your bus, not your fault, but the bus line. And so these are unmet needs. And you talk about the train, it's impossible to bring the train back. You had 21 years to bring the train back when you bought that corridor right. And you just keep saying to the public, it's impossible, it's impossible. Well, guess what? Global warming is possible, and it is happening in our community. And you are all responsible for making sure transit is rideable, not just for people that can't drive or have no car, but for people that do have cars and want to get out of their cars. And you're not meeting those needs at all. And I just gave you some classic examples of that. And if you had worked for that 21 years to bring back the train, you have Biden money right now. Other counties are doing it, and you're not doing it. You're just digging your heels in and saying the same old thing. The surf line will not bring in more people. It's impossible. If you think you want to go under an underpass at 10 o'clock at night, I mean, you've got to be crazy. You don't even take the bus now. I don't think there's one of you on that board that take the bus to this meeting or to other meetings because you need to. That's the only way you're going to understand.
Anybody else on this particular item? All right, I don't see any hands up. There was another, the person who pulled this did not speak yet, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to, Mr. Rosen, if you're still with us, I'm going to ask you to keep it relevant. I appreciate the creativity and getting comments in, but.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
This is about unmet transit needs. I think what's happening under the MST leadership is a lot of low-income people now can't go to Big Sur because there isn't the bus. And so we don't have equity. If you don't have a car, you can't go down and enjoy the nature down there. The Highway 68 line was cut. The Carmel Valley line, to get to Carmel Valley, you have to transfer. This is a very serious problems with management of MST in my mind. I'm going to quote something. Caltrans from when 2003 agreement between TAMC and the state on returning rail service, which is an unmet transit need. Caltrans has confirmed that the San Francisco-Monterey rail service is included in the 10-year intercity rail plan and the Amtrak 20-year plan. Caltrans has also indicated its expectation that the funding shortfalls that currently exist are not expected to persist in 2000 to 2009 when the service is planned to start. However, if these intercity rail funds should fall short, TAMC is in the process of developing a transportation sales measure for the November 2004 ballot, which could include operational subsidies for the international intercity passenger rail service. And so I'm very sad that, they've had all this time and they didn't seem to do anything. I don't know what happened. It could have happened. Sonoma County only has about 50,000 more people than Monterey County, and they made rail quite a wonderful. And so this could happen, and yet, what's going to happen if you do the surf, it is going to preclude rail. You're not going to tear out $100 million investment and put in a railroad track because the Coastal Commission says it will restrict future development. It's going to use up the development potential, and you're not paying attention to that. And so you're killing off an unmet transit need. Nobody's going to use the surf busway.
Appreciate your
Thank
comments. You. All right. Yes.
Only because it was brought about underserved and disadvantaged communities. I want to highlight what MST has done for our city, King City and South County. Through our process on the board on MST, King City now has a circular. That circular goes around our community twice an hour. Greenfield, Soledad, and Gonzales are working towards theirs as well. line 23, which is the main artery for many of our residents to make it to jobs, into education in Salinas. MST has made a strong commitment to our underserved communities with the building of the South County Maintenance and Operations Facility, which was an investment of over $15 million of state and federal funds, as well as local. And I just disagree wholeheartedly that MST is not actively working to make sure that all residents have the ability to get where they need. So I do get frustrated. Thank you for letting me espouse that.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item?
And I'd just like to add to that. Thank you, Director Labar. I think I also want to say that as part of MST in the transportation realm, especially underserved communities, those that serve South County, we understand the region and we understand the need of the transportation. That still remains an issue for many of our residents. So for the last 3 years, we did undertake a comprehensive operational analysis to really look at where the ridership were. And I know there was some comments in regards to some of the lines that were no longer in service, but it was an evaluation of those lines and the riderships and where the demand was and where the need was to ensure that we were providing transportation in those areas with the population that needed to get to school, that needed to get to work. And those were some of the changes made, or some of the comments made in regards to some of the lines that are not existing right now. But there's alternatives also for those lines that are not existing. I know MST has looked at different alternatives to be able to provide still that transportation service.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the amendments prior stated to the minutes, specifically item 5 on those minutes. With that clarification, less item 3.2.4. So that is, I've got a motion from Potter. I've got a second from Askew. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, I'm going to ask for,
We do. Chaps.
oh, my apologies, chaps. So I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on that last one. My apologies.
District 1, alternate Gomez.
Aye.
District 2, Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4, Supervisor Askew.
Aye.
District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rio.
Aye.
City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Yes.
City of Sand City. Aye. City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad.
Yes.
Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Don't go far. I'm going to ask for a motion on 3.2.4. Is there a motion on item 3.2.4, which is the ecology action?
Make that motion.
Got a motion from Labar, second from Adams. I'm going to go ahead and ask for that roll call vote again.
District 1, alternate Gomez.
Aye.
District 2, Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4, Supervisor Askew.
Recuse myself.
District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rio.
Aye.
City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Aye.
City of Sand City. Aye. City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad.
Yeah.
Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you, Eloise. So as we've talked about at length this morning, we're all focused on the future of transportation and opportunity for our community economically. And so as we look at some of those opportunities, I want to turn it over to Todd to walk us through item 4 and make some introduction.
Thank you. So item 4 is a request for approval for the executive director to submit a funding application for U.S. funding, U.S. Department of Transportation funding to support the Monterey Bay Drone and Automation Robotics Technology Initiative, MB DART. And their looking for federal funding, and as a appropriate agency that can receive federal funds, we'd be a host for their grant application. So last month, the board received a presentation about MB DART and what they're striving to do. Russ Metz is here just to give us a brief presentation about that and about the grant application.
Which I'd love to do, and I would like to do a little quick for everyone. I'm not seeing it in here.
District 5 has been a sticky finger.
Okay, not door prizes, please. Thank you.
Honesty.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you all for the chance to be back here in front of you. I was here last month, and you supported us to work with the staff on advancing this proposal. Just to remind you, we at DART are focused on the use of these emerging technologies for a wide range of applications. And this one in particular, we're going after with the Department of Transportation has an emphasis on public safety applications. And we see the pursuit of this project to establish a safer airspace with enhanced awareness and software on the back end will enable post-disaster damage assessment to the road network. It will also enable us to support the growth of companies like Joby Aviation and Archer, who are adding significant jobs and economic development to our region. So this is a strategic move on our part to go after these federal funds to continue all of this work. So as we showed you last time, we're focusing in particular on two areas where this Department of Transportation SMART Grant program has focus, and those are disaster preparedness and resiliency and transportation infrastructure. So the basic idea is to be able to use UAS to do rapid assessment of the transportation network, particularly on county and private roads after a major disaster. So this would address what many people are concerned about with climate change issues, and basically about establishing a minimum viable infrastructure of sensors, a data exchange, human resources, and policy implications for how we would begin to integrate these new technologies into our airspace safely. And these are the three areas within the SMART Grant program that our proposal is focused, and we're building on two other proposals that have been awarded under this program nationally. We're working with partners in those programs, so we have a really great insight into what the DOT is looking for here. We have also, following from the presentation here, made outreach to a number of agencies of relevance here, including your emergency management department in the county, as well as the California Office of Emergency Management. So we're really working up and down the staff to bring in partners and gain awareness and participation. We also have a relationship with UC Santa Cruz and their Citrus Institute, as well as an established relationship with the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which allows us to operate under a certificate of authorization that they are able to deploy already, because they manage a thing called the Pan-Pacific UAS test range from Alaska. So here's a diagram that might blur your eyes, but it basically shows what we're talking about. We want to be able to use UAS to map areas that, like along levees or roadways after a disaster, that would help us prioritize repair activities and response activities. And so there's immediate opportunities for sort of in the immediate period after disaster, as well as long-term prioritization of infrastructure repairs. We have a project schedule that's kind of outlined here, really with the idea that there would be a planning and regulatory phase that would kick off in early 25, begin in phase 2 with testing and evaluation. We're envisioning 3 2-week field test periods where those operations would be conducted here and they would be measured and monitored quite closely. All of the reporting would be the content of the response to the agency. And then there would be a closing period. So this would be an 18-month operation. And there would be an extensive public awareness component of this proposed project. What we have done is increase the proposed project area, really a focus on making sure that we get down to King City. We propose establishing sensor stations at Marina, Airport, Salinas, and King City in particular, as well as a couple of points along in between King City and Salinas. And this is a summary of the budget that we are moving ahead with. There may be slight tweaks before we get it to the July 12th submission. We did meet with your Director of Finance, and while he acknowledged that we may be, everybody's working tight, he was gracious enough to approve what we have allocated here for the role for TAMC staff to help with the facilitation of the reporting. The idea is that our team and a set of contractors would be responsible for conducting and delivering to the TAMC staff very detailed reporting and implementation of the project, and that would allow us to get through the phase one. So this is a first phase of a two-step process. The maximum amount for this grant is $2 million. There's no local match required, although we do have committed match in kind funds to the amount that are shown there. And the second phase would allow us to go after $15 million in funding to expand the test case that we would prepare here. So that's the overview for the board, and we've got a number of people here as well as some online who could help with any more technical questions you might have. And I look forward to taking your questions and your support. Thank you. All right, any questions from the body?
I see a $1.9 million grant, and supplies, equipment was just under 300 grand. So it looks a little heavy on the non-equipment. As far as the subcontractors and the contractual senior equipment lease, how much of this money, besides the equipment, 300 grand, let's call it, is going to go to the operation of the drones doing the work?
Yeah, so all of the parts, let's see here. The airspace integration, aloft and one sky components are sort of the operations piece. The ATA aviation is about the installation of the sensor network and software. So really all of that. And then the University of Alaska Fairbanks is kind of compliance with their federal authorizations that we would have to participate, engage them with. And yeah, so that's kind of basically how that.
So is it true that it's approximately half is on the ground direct and half is everything else that has to happen to support it?
Pretty much.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Anyone else looking to? All right, I'm gonna open this up for public input. Is there any member of the public who wishes? I'm sorry, Chaps, I see your hand up. Before we go to public, I'll look.
Yes, thank you. So this is an exciting initiative for the region, and I just wanted to ask. I actually am really interested to see how this would spur any job creation within our region. Are we kind of highlighting the need for perhaps universities in the area? I see UC Santa Cruz here, but maybe CSUMB and MPC to also be participating in educational programs to strengthen specialized job opportunities in the region?
I think we have a response from Matt Beating. Matt, we'll give you the floor as part of the presentation.
Thank you. Absolutely. Workforce development and economic development, opportunity, community engagement is also a large part of the Monterey Bay Darts line item on the budget that we see here. And so we are in partnership with the Monterey Bay Tech Hub, which includes CSU Monterey Bay. And we are working, in fact, on the existing data exchange network with CSU Monterey Bay to upload data that is going to become layers within the data exchange that we've talked about here as the kind of base layer of this enablement of the airspace. So absolutely, we have in the budget as well within these line items, there's internships that are going to be supported directly through budget that will incorporate and include student and graduate student opportunities to participate in this and highlight opportunities for career development within the field.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I actually discovered when I was touring Joby Aviation is there's a lot of niche kind of areas that actually a lot of folks within the region are interested in. And I love like more job creation generally in the area. So I'm supportive, but thank you.
Yeah, you're gonna go to Mayor LeBar.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, definitely supportive. I think this is a great project and kind of just highlighting or pivoting off what Chaps just said was if there is the ability as you go forward to create little presentations for like middle schoolers or what is it, freshmen is the first year in high school. I think it'd be a good way to open their eyes of what the technology is doing. To even see an actual UAS and how the sensors, you know, a presentation of what the sensors are collecting and how it's analyzed. Something like that could be very beneficial. I think Monterey County of Education would be a great link if there is a ability to create that component within the budget structure, or but maybe in the second cycle that could be added in.
Yeah, great comment. I mean, we have fairly robust engagements with all the needs that you mentioned here. And part of our initiative is about just that. So that's we'll take that into account and make it now. Anyone else at the table? All right, I'm gonna open it up to the public. Again, my folks stay on topic. I'm gonna go to number 2082. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm very concerned about this drone technology. You know, it's all these technologies are all for the better, and they really aren't. And we're just getting more and more deeper into becoming robotic in every way. And I just imagine a sky, you know, our last horizon, our last place where we can look towards freedom and untouched beauty, and that's the sky. And now it's going to be clouded over with, you know, all about security and spying on this and being safe all the time and little black drones everywhere, you know. So I think you're going to have to really start deliberating on how are we going to control that and how many drones you plan to have under this program, and when will they fly and where, and all that. So thank you for that consideration.
So I'm going to go to number 2837. Again, 2837. Floor is yours.
I'm Brian Rosen here. I'm very concerned about the surveillance state, and there's always a good reason to do more surveillance, whether it's, you know, looking at traffic patterns or whatnot. A lot of money gets spent, and I don't believe in spending money for the sake of spending money because we get it from the federal government. You know, we want to look at areas maybe that have too many cars on them. Maybe we should bring back TAMC's great carpool program they used to have. That would make more of a difference. There's a lot of things that can be done that don't require all this technology. And the trouble with having this kind of technology in place, it can be misused, and it probably will be misused once we give the government that kind of power to have drones all over the place. There are better things we can do for disaster preventiveness. I mean, we need to put money into those things, not just more and more surveillance of the people. Where does this all end? You know, we're losing our privacy rights, and these things are going to be misused. They always are. And I don't want to see a bunch of drones above me, and it takes away from the whole experience. I always feel uncomfortable when a drone is over me. It's such an invasion of privacy, and I don't think it's really appropriate and necessary. And I think there are less expensive things that can be done on a tangible level that will make more of a difference that we tend to neglect while we pursue all this technology that makes money for a lot of people, gives people positions. But I'm against it, and I don't think you really care what I have to say about any matter, but I just wanted to voice that opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no more hands online. I'll go in the room and see if there's anybody who wishes to speak on this item. See nobody rushing the podium. I'll bring it back to this board. There was a question in there from the public that I'm wondering if you can answer, which was exactly how many drones will be administered or enabled by this particular project if it is.
Yeah, so the phase one work, and which I identified in the schedule would involve two or three 2-week periods where there would be drones in the sky, and we would be very particular about which how many and where those would be going. So that would be part of the public information that would be available for people to see. It's not going to be thousands of drones. It would be multiple, because part of the idea is to be able to track and safely manage where they are in the sky over a long period, but it wouldn't be, probably more than one. And it's the most.
Those are, thank you. I'm going to go to Supervisor Adams and Supervisor Tripp.
Will it be possible to have outreach similar to what we experience now when there's going to be a controlled burn at Full Board? So everybody, it blasts out to everyone, so no one, like upset or nervous or not.
Well, there might be, people that get upset about it, but we would certainly let people know where those, when they are happening.
I think outreach is really going to be important on this. And as I was saying, I feel like they do a great job alerting us about, the controlled burns.
Well, we'll look at exactly what they do and take lessons from that.
Great, thank you.
So now I'll go to the largest opponent of public outreach is Supervisor Tripp.
I want to speak in favor of these drones as an outreach tool. But no, actually, my experience during the flooding out in Colorado is that the drones are utilized to just watch the river and a much quicker period of time and broader range of area than we could do it by any other means, in person or any other technology. And it was able to see where the problems were going to be, and really where it's a big step forward in terms of public safety, protecting the community. And I know that would be utilized also with fires in particular, but it has really great benefits to aid people and keep them safe, community safe.
It also keeps first responders safe when they don't have to go out and stand on that levee to get eyes on it. I've heard a lot of testimony to that effect in the last few weeks. I'm going to go to Mayor Velasquez and look at Mayor Duncan.
Yeah, thank you. And I know I've seen in other areas that they're utilizing drones to be able to look at even the expansion of the fires, right? When there's a fire that breaks out, they can monitor that, and they can calculate that. So for me, I think it's just clarity also in terms of what type of disaster data will be collected specifically through the drones, and then how will that data be collected and disseminated to be able to help the region determine what preventive measures need to be taken.
Yeah. So the focus of this work is really on the transportation system, really in our meetings with Cal OES and Caltrans, they were pretty clear that at the local level, the focus of this work would best be spent on county and private road systems, as the state road network, they are kind of responsible for taking care of that. But really, we'll be focused on identifying those areas where there's major damage to roads and repair would be needed, or there would need to be other steps taken to get supplies to people that are cut off. And we've been in communication with the Monterey County Department of Emergency Management, as well as the Emergency Operations Center, folks out at CSUOB, where they have the regional response center, and we would work with them to make sure that they have access to the data flows that come from these systems. And again, this is really a pilot to kind of install aerospace managed sensors and link it all together and demonstrate that it could work. And then a phase 2 would be a much more substantial operational investment.
So just to follow up, Chair, if I may, so because I know that the county and the cities have already a process to be able to determine the road conditions, and obviously there's, I can't remember the name of it, but there is, you know, how the roads are determined, what type of damage they need and what needs to be repaired. So this would be an augmentation to be
Yes.
able to ensure where there's locations that may not be visible.
Exactly, and to do it faster and cheaper, basically, over, you know, in a situation also where they may be a larger disaster situation that would, you know, overwhelm our capacity that we have now. We wouldn't be establishing a new method for describing road damage or things like that, building some existing classification systems.
Yeah, I'd like to motion to authorize the executive director to submit this smart funding application. And if there's a second, I just have a brief supportive comment.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
I've got a second for Mayor Carbone.
DART, led by Josh and his colleagues, have been working really hard, similar to Scott and Fred on Forte. They've been doing the same thing up in the air and with great results. So when I see their crew advocating for something, I think about apprenticeships, I think about jobs, I think about cutting edge tech. And when you combine disaster preparedness with this technology, I mean, we're very lucky in Monterey County to have this as an example of our county being on the cutting edge of something, you know, this whole UAM technology. So thank you to your crew, and thanks to TAMC for supporting this.
You took my announcement. That's all I was gonna say. This is cutting edge, right? I mean, either we're gonna do it here regionally or someone else is working on it somewhere else in the nation, and we know they're working on it throughout the world. So either we're gonna lead it and going 20 years down the road, talking about they're everywhere and they're spying on you. That's not now, right? The technology is cutting edge, so either we're part of it or we're not.
Any final thoughts before we call the vote?
It's so cutting edge that the acronyms on the TAMC acronym list does not even include it. Leading edge.
Sure, update. If we should advocate for consolidation of the acronyms that we're. With that, we do have a motion, a second. I'm gonna ask Ellis to take a sort of roll call. Thank you very much for the presentation, gentlemen. And Matt, you too. I know your hand was going up and down, but we're good. Thank you.
District 1, alternate Gomez.
Aye.
District 2, Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4, Supervisor Askew.
Aye.
District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rey Oaks.
Aye.
City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey.
Aye.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Aye.
City of Sand City.
Aye.
City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad.
Aye.
Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Eloise. With that, we're gonna jump to item 5, to commence a process to amend Measure X maintenance and revenue calculation provisions. We'll go to Mike Zeller for that presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Mike Zeller, I'm TAMC's Director of Programming and Project Delivery. Be presenting on agenda item number 5, which is a request to modify the Measure X maintenance of effort requirement for Sand City. If you'll recall at the board's meeting last month, Norm Group from Farm Bureau, who is the chair of the Measure X Oversight Committee, provided a presentation on jurisdiction compliance with Measure X through their annual reporting process. One of the areas that was highlighted during that presentation was Sand City's inability to meet their maintenance of effort requirement this year, as well as in several preceding years. Just as a way of a background, the maintenance of effort requirement that's included in Measure X is the purpose for that is to ensure that jurisdictions that are receiving Measure X funds are spending Measure X in addition to funds that were already spent on transportation purposes. So the Measure X was supposed to come in and supplement the maintenance backlog that jurisdictions had for their funding, and wasn't supposed to be used for the funds to be able to be taken from the general fund that were going to transportation and shifted to something else. Measure X was supposed to be additive, and that the purpose of the maintenance of effort was to ensure that that did occur. The current way that the maintenance of effort is calculated is it looks at either a jurisdiction's Senate Bill, the local street and roads requirement from the Senate Bill 1 to receive funding, or what they spent in fiscal year 2016-17, whichever of the two was higher. That was the baseline for the jurisdiction, and that gets indexed annually. For Sand City, their higher of the two was their Senate Bill 1 maintenance effort, which put them at about $500,000 for the requirement that they had to spend each year in order to be eligible for Measure X funding. After indexing, that amount is up to close to about, I think, about $550,000. And just based on the size of Sand City, we only received close to about $40,000 in Measure X funding. So there's a bit of a discrepancy in what they're required to spend in terms of what they receive. Since the fiscal year 2019-20, the city has not been able to meet their maintenance of effort requirement or verify that they have made those expenditures. And transportation agency staff has been working with the city to try to help them rectify this situation. The city's had a number of turnovers in staff, as well as their financial and auditing consultants. So they've had difficulty going back and trying to piece together what their expenditures had been on to try to meet their maintenance of effort. But what they have provided most recently, the letter that's included in the agenda packet shows that for the past most recent 4 fiscal years, that they've spent on average about $200,000 on transportation purposes from their general fund. We did meet with the Measure X Citizens Oversight Committee in April to discuss this issue, and they did provide a recommendation to this board to modify the maintenance of effort to provide some relief to Sand City that would allow them to get back into compliance and then start receiving their Measure X funding again. You can see with the on page 137 of the agenda packet, there's the proposed language to modify the Measure X ordinance that would make that change for Sand City. It would essentially keep the maintenance of efforts definition the same as what I explained, but it include an additional exception for Sand City that would include their 4 most recent, the most recent 4 fiscal years as their baseline for their maintenance of effort, and that would start in the next upcoming fiscal year, 24-25. This change would require an amendment to the ordinance. There's a process that's outlined on page 137 as well. Starts with a review and recommendation from the Oversight Committee, which I mentioned happened in April to bring this forward to the board. The action today that's before the board would start the first reading of this ordinance amendment, authorizing a 45-day public comment period, and then we would bring this back for a public hearing in August. If there's any changes, any substantial changes between to the recommendation, if the board chooses to move forward with it between now and then, we have another oversight committee meeting in August before the board meeting. We'll bring those back for discussion as well. But barring that, we have the recommendation before the board to make the changes today, and be happy to take any comments or questions. We also have the city manager from Sand City as well to help address any questions that the board has.
Thank you, Mike. Please, I'm gonna ask staff to make sure that the record notes that Mayor Carbone exited the room and it's a form of recusal for this particular item. With that, I'm gonna bring it back to committee for any comments, questions. Seeing no hands up at this time, I'm gonna go to the public and I'll bring
I'm
it
sorry,
back.
I just had a quick, but maybe after the public.
Sure. Let's go to the public. See nobody charging the dais in the room. I'm gonna look to Zoom. Seeing no hands up via Zoom. I'm gonna close public comment, bring it back.
So I'm looking at the list of the other cities in the county that had also struggled with maintenance of effort. How would this proposed change affect Gonzales and Greenfield with their efforts as well?
The Gonzales and Greenfield, they have not had compliance issues with their maintenance of effort. So this change would not affect any of the other jurisdictions.
Okay, so I was just looking at the list that's provided here, the 2022, 23 maintenance of efforts listed for Gonzales and Greenfield is 0, as well as Soledad. So maybe that's old data, but does that mean that those other cities are also struggling in the same manner?
No, so what's listed on that table on page 136, where it shows the fiscal year 22-23 maintenance of effort, that is what each of the jurisdictions was required to spend to meet that maintenance of effort requirement. Gonzales, Greenfield, and Soledad, they're at 0 because they had not been making any transportation expenditures from their general fund during the time period that we looked at for establishing the maintenance of effort. So they were at 0 for that. That's what they're.
I was looking at the chart is the opposite. This is what they're required to.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else around the table? Anyone else?
Yeah, so can we, and maybe we're gonna hear from the city manager, but what are some of the issues of that maintenance of effort with the change? How will that support the city of Sand City to meet the maintenance of effort requirements?
I'll let the city manager address that.
I actually have difficulty hearing questions from behind you.
Yeah, so what were just some of the issues in regards to the expenditure of that maintenance of efforts? And then with the proposed language, how would that support the city of Sand City to meet its maintenance of effort requirement?
So the previous maintenance of effort language before the proposed amendment was based on 5 years. I forget exactly what the years were, but for some reason that as Mike explained, the Sand City in the past, when it looked at those 3 years, its maintenance of efforts ended up extremely high, almost $500,000 annually. What this amendment would do would lower it to 200,000. So that would be what we would have to expend on streets annually to receive the Measure X funds. So we don't know what went into that amount. We have even contacted the state controller. We have talked to our auditors. Nobody has the information. TAMC doesn't have the information. So, so I can't answer the question of how we ended up at that very, very high maintenance of effort amount, but this change would lower it. So I don't know if that answers your questions.
It does, thank you. It does.
Thank you. Mayor Arlen.
I definitely support the city of Sand City, but when we're talking about all of our changing our ordinance, so I'm trying to figure out if my maintenance effort is too high by the same calculation. They calculated the same cities and the counties at the same time. And so I'm trying to figure out, has the city of Seaside been doing too much?
because my residents will say, no, we have not. Let me be clear about that. But if we're talking about changing the ordinance to allow them to become in compliance, then does this change, and do you guys support this going forward? I mean, right? You know, we don't, you know, it's just a vote. We know they're there. We know they want to spend the money. So that allows them to be in compliance. But that was the whole threat of this oversight, is to keep that number high. We don't know why the number's going down. Is there anything TAMC can tell us about why the number is?
Sure, when the city had, trouble meeting their maintenance effort requirement, we started withholding their share of Measure X funds, which is about $36,000 a year. So it's a small amount for a small city. And their $500,000 maintenance effort requirement is way out of scale with all of the other small cities in the county. You look at Delray Oaks and it's about 65,000 a year. And then we have multiple small cities that are bigger than Sand City that have zero. And we just realized that this is a position that they're not going to be able to work their way out of. And it's a uniquely individual situation for that city. So we're supporting Sand City's, the modification for Sand City. And that's why we didn't look at each individual city, because this was all based on what each city submitted to the state controllers for their annual report. And we didn't go through and audit that in those years. We didn't question what they submitted. This is between the cities and the state controller. So we didn't get into that part of it, but we did appreciate the fact that it's just not, from my perspective as staff, not fair. So we're trying to bring it back as a way to make it fair and allow them to access the money.
Yeah, well, I know when it originally came about, they did a 3-year average and you're spending heavily then, but I thought we took care of those things. But I'm supportive. It's just, I'm trying to figure out, if we're changing ordinances, then it should be fair, and then we should be open to look to other communities as they struggle also. Because what the maintenance ever comes back maybe during good times. So I'm not talking about Sand City itself, I'm just talking about our ordinance, about the level of maintenance effort. So that's just, you answered my questions, my concerns. Thank you so much, George.
I'll just share that I'm hearing you, and I'll share that we at the county recently did a survey of our general public, asked what the issues of major concern were for them, and roads were top. Right, no matter where you live in Monterey County, that was the concern. So I'm with you. I'm supportive today. If you want to look at the broader picture and want to take on that political challenge, I'm just messing.
No, we try to do our maintenance effort, you know, to keep Measure X going, then we do more. So I'm not saying city should not do more. I'm saying if we're changing our ordinance, then what is fair should be looked at. And it seems fair to me the way you guys figuring it out. It's just a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Mayor Velasquez and then back to Mary, and then we'll go to.
Just a clarification, that the maintenance of effort calculations come from the state, the cities provides that to the state. So TAMC doesn't do any of those calculations. It's us cities providing that maintenance of effort to the state. That's how we get these numbers.
Correct. It was a 3-year average before the initiative passed that set that floor. So that's where the number came from, but they were self-reported from the cities to the state, the average taken. There was conversation in this room. I remember those conversations about what that could be set at. They were moved in some instances up and down. This one seems to have slid through. So we're trying to fill it.
Thank you.
Mary?
Thanks. Is there any way that we could do this without amending the ordinance itself?
Unfortunately, no. I'm sorry, unfortunately, no.
Okay, thank you.
And that was my question.
Any final thoughts? Is there a motion to approve staff's request here, which is to set a public hearing on August 8th? We introduced it and then direct staff to publish a notice, hearing and publicize supporting by the.
Second.
In a second, we're gonna need a roll call vote on this one, so when you're ready, Louise.
District 1, alternate Gomez.
Aye.
District 2, Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4 Supervisor Askew.
Aye.
District 5 Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rey Oaks.
Aye.
City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Aye.
City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad.
Aye.
Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you, Louise. With that, we're gonna move into item 6, topic du jour, the action by executive committee to authorize the executive director to enter into an agreement with an appraisal firm to determine the value of the Monterey branch line. Again, that is to ratify the action by the executive committee. For a presentation, we'll go to Todd.
Thank you. With the comments and questions that have been received about the CERC project, there was some public focus on the Monterey branch line and how TAMC purchased the Monterey branch line. And the funds that we received from the state to purchase the branch line was from Proposition 116 that was approved by the voters in 1990. One of the things that became clear was provision of the resolution that the California Transportation Commission approved that authorized the funding for the purchase. A condition in that resolution was that we would have active rail service within 10 years of purchasing the branch line. That resolution was passed in 2003. So we missed that deadline. That was something that honestly fell off of TAMC staff's radar, and it fell off of the California Transportation Commission staff's radar. And it was pointed out, and now we're in a position where we need to address it. This issue now is really unrelated to the CERC project because the resolution from the California Transportation Commission says that if we don't have active rail service within 10 years, we're required to sell the right of way and return the funds to the state. We've been in a lot of discussion with California Transportation Commission staff on how to address this. We have some informal options that we've been talking back and forth with the commission staff. What they've recommended as something that's acceptable to them would be a situation where we value the right of way and then provide an IOU for the value of it to the state, and then reimburse or pay off that IOU on funds expended on rail projects in Monterey County. So these projects, we have quite a few other rail projects in Monterey County that we're actively working on. And if there's flexibility in the type of funds spent, the examples that we've used is state funds that we're receiving to do it and then spending it on those projects. We could pay off that IOU and resolve the debt. This is all something that we're in talks with staff. It hasn't been approved by the California Transportation Commission, but it's in negotiations and discussion right now. Part of that process is determining the value that we would have to pay back. And this would allow us to either do the appraisal ourselves or have an appraiser review an appraisal that's being completed by the state. So that's the action we're looking for today, is authority to, or ratification of what we request from the executive committee to go ahead with funding for that appraisal.
All right, I'm gonna take this to the public first, and then we'll bring it back. We're gonna go ahead and open it up. I see 2 numbers online. I'm gonna go to number 2837 and give you the floor for 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm reading from the state that it says the appraisal is supposed to be done by the state on the buyback. And I have it right here in front of me. Page 13 of the master agreement between the state and TAMC says, in quotation marks, to the then present fair market value as determined by state of the project project property acquired under this agreement. So it sounds like the state's supposed to do it. And quite frankly, I don't trust TAMC and its management. to do an honest appraisal. They've been telling us for years that no railroad tracks would be removed, including Mr. Muck and Cedric, and saying the same thing. And so they're not, to my mind, a very good, reliable agency, considering all the false statements that have been made regarding the SURF project, for example. So also, I believe TAMC has too much of a conflict of interest to do an appraisal. Since it owns land it wants to develop. I have a little thing from the rail policy meeting says, quoting Mr. Muck, he also said that TAMC owns about 12 acres just east of the bridge, and that MST owns about 5 acres south of TAMC's property, and that after building demolition, there was a plan to convert that property into transit-oriented development. So they want development. They're not non-biased. There's a conflict of interest. Let the state do it. This never should have happened. TAMC runs everything by council. When they presented the contract to the Coastal Commission, how could they have missed this? And the plan was to have rail in 10 years. State funding was supposed to be available. TAMC was supposed to do a county-wide initiative for rail operations and funding. And why did none of this ever happen? I think TAMC completely blew it. And yeah, sure, you can apply it maybe towards other rail projects, but in the long run, you're probably going to lose a lot of money from the county, as everything is going to balance out. And we just need a non-biased
2082, the floor is yours, 2082.
This is just another example of your corruption, all of you. You're very, very corrupt and very bad for our peninsula. You're buying back a rail corridor meant for the train, and in former statements have actually had the audacity to say that it won't affect bringing back the train, which is the most usable and enjoyable mode of transportation. And where will this money come from? Us taxpayers. We're the ones that are going to end up paying for this. And also the state is supposed to make the assessment, but you're already trying to make it so that you can make the assessment. And of course, I don't trust any of you because of the way you're lying to the public and saying this won't have any effect at all on the train, that the train is impossible to bring back for at least 25 years. It's impossible because your board makes it impossible, and you have done so for years. So you're not helping anyone, and you're not helping us, the public, at all, get a transportation from San Francisco to here so that we can get rid of the thousands of cars that you are responsible for bringing in because you aren't doing your job. Shame on all of you, really. It's just totally mind-boggling that people like you can be in positions of power and vote this way and destroy our peninsula and make all the development possible. It just boggles my mind. And so finally, you should be working on a grant program to bring back the train under Biden, because Biden has money for train, and you just totally ignore that. And when I asked Mr. Muck if he would do it, he just said, no, that's not possible. I'm bringing back the train to Salinas. Well, Salinas is a whole different ball game. No one is going to go to Salinas. They want to come to Monterey, and they want it quick and fast. And the train is the option, and you've killed it. With this vote, and I predict you'll all vote for this, because that's the kind of people you are.
Time is up. We're going to go to Michael Groves. Michael, the floor is yours. You've got 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair and board members. I appreciate it and a chance to speak. I'm a big train advocate, a throwback from the days when a train could get from San Francisco to Monterey, and the Hotel Del Monte was the Navy school at the time. So not to bore you with history, but we have a big history of having a train service Monterey and also Santa Cruz. And so I would like to really advocate that the board preserve this rail right of way with MST or, with the various projects that we have going on now, but preserve this rail right of way. I'm not sure doing an appraisal, spending TAMC's money on an appraisal is the right approach. I think there are some other solutions that could be talked about with the state in terms of bringing in some private investment and having public-private partnerships. I represent a client currently who is very interested in infusing money into rail to service Santa Cruz and to Monterey. and is very interested in the Pajaro hub, where, you know, be the center really in terms of recreating Pajaro in a different manner to really make it a very vibrant hub. And I think it's perfect timing as what's going on with Pajaro now in terms of trying to rebuild. So I have a client that's very interested in investing money into rail and would like to see TAMC and work with TAMC director to bring that forward and make a proposal to the board and see if we can't do some kind of public-private partnership to move it forward. And maybe that's where we can help pay for the rail right away that you know the state is asking for money back on. So those are my comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Rose, anybody else in the room? Seeing none, and no other hands up on Zoom, I'm going to close public comment, bring it back. Mayor Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious as to where the statement here, the credit to be paid by the investments the agency would otherwise already be making in rail projects, meaning there would be no net loss of funding to rail projects, Monterey County. So you kind of alluded to that earlier. Is that going to mean that we're going to be taking money from other projects in the county? Simply?
No, it's that we would be given credit for the money that we were already planning on spending. So the board took a position to dedicate half of the SB 125 funds to rail as an example. That money that's already been dedicated by the board, theoretically, if this agreement before it was approved, would be used as to count towards paying it off. We have money right now that we're spending on the extension of service to Salinas. We have money that we're spending on the Pajaro Station environmental work. King City we're actively trying to support the city on rail service. All of those things, positive train control along the corridor, all of those things are projects that require quite a bit of money that we're talking about being eligible for paying off that potential debt.
So close to me, there would be a loss of money still.
No, it's that actual money spent on those projects would count to pay off the debt.
Anyway, so my history with this project goes back quite a ways, 22 years ago. I don't know if anybody's in the agency, even on staff that was here then. But I was tasked with being negotiator with Union Pacific. Rick Gooch and I sat down. He offered $20 million to line, started from $3 million. We had a discussion about getting an appraisal at the time. It was going to be either an over the fence, across the fence appraisal, or the value of it as a corridor. Across the fence means that you take and break up the line, you sell it to the individual property owner. They'll get along the line all the way from Capitol down to the city. Each would have different values. The appraisal of the corridor really didn't matter. And so there was only one interested person in the room buying it was us. So we sat down and finally he just said, I tore him down after a couple of years. I said, finally, Rick, can you just make us an offer? And he said, okay, fine. That's how we arrived at the number really. Because the appraisals were really worthwhile. I think it's premature to enter into an appraisal right now. I'd rather go ahead and delay this or defer it so we can talk to the CDC personally. Isn't the CDC going to be in town soon?
Yes, sir.
When is that?
Tomorrow.
I thought. So I'm not here tomorrow, but I think it would be good if somebody came forward, perhaps this year, and said, we'd like to get clarification on this issue. Because it's a really pretty significant issue. We're paying for the line twice, actually. I don't really favor going ahead and taking more money out of our pockets. Go ahead and pay for this line again. So I think we're get the direction from staff, not from staff, but from the commissioners themselves. They're not going to get an answer right away. Jen has to have an agenda. We can have some input in both.
So the money that we would spend if we ended up in an agreement with the CTC to pay an IOU towards the value of the project is not money money that we would take from any more other project. It's so we're not repaying for the right of way. We're just getting credit for other rail money that we would spend anyway. Right now, the request for the action is authority. So this is a ratification of what we asked the executive committee, but we have not entered into a contract for appraisal yet. We are working with the California Transportation Commission staff on their effort to get an appraisal. And we're waiting to see what's the best action on our part. We just don't have budget authority at this point from the board. So this is getting budget authority to enter into an appraisal if we feel that it will help the process. So, the fair market value, however you calculate that, may or may not be the final basis for the valuation of the property. We started with repaying the original purchase price as the basis. If we calculate how much Santa Cruz paid for their rail right away, and you do it on a per mile basis, it brings it down from 9.3 to 5 million. So that's another alternative we propose. We're looking at ways to bring that dollar amount of the IOU debt down. But right now, we're trying to work this out with commission staff in a way that everyone comes out feeling good about it, and it's resolves the issue. And then that keeps TAMC in control of the right of way to pursue rail in the future and support the circle.
Well, I think for me, honestly, the problem in 16 was a voter approval issue. The rail line was for sale by Union Pacific at the time, Southern Pacific, and then Union Pacific opened it. A chance to buy the entire line, which we should have done anyway. But so I think that frankly, it's a little bit, disingenuous to say that we're not going to pay, but we're paying money that wasn't ours. I mean, we're paying money that was earmarked for this county for real property, for property acquisition. So I think honestly, I'd much prefer us to go ahead with the CTC and say, Rich, go for the Southwest Commission, instead of just taking direction from staff. So you're trying to say something?
No, I have something that I want to say, but I'm trying to think about the best way to put it. And that is, I think that staff has a lot of different irons in the fire right now, and this is happening very quickly. So I think that it's possible to take your suggestion as it is, but we should also be ready for this appraisal, because if they come back at the state and they proceed and they say 20 million, in your example, that's what UP wanted, we should be ready to say 3 million, right? And so the question of who's supposed to do it, that really doesn't matter. I think that there is disagreement on that point, but at the end of the road, we should still be prepared in the event that there is an excessive appraisal to be ready to talk about.
Last time we did 3 appraisers. We didn't go out to just one appraisal, we went to a bid collective. Why wouldn't we do that this time?
I think it's about empowering staff, in my opinion, given the fact that we're not going to meet again until August, right? There's this extended period where we are trying to do everything we can to lower the cost and not go to an appraisal with the state in this conversation. But if they push us into that corner in order to move expeditiously, and if staff feels that's the only option, then they're asking for that empowerment today. But
He's gonna push it and go ahead and say, okay, you guys gotta jump on this right now.
we're
Let's spend some time.
in their vision, we're in violation of an agreement because we didn't make it within 10 years, right? And so they're trying to push us at this point.
Chair, any question? So for staff, and I understand the debate, I appreciate what we're trying to do here. So ultimately, if the California Transportation Commission and TAMC staff meet and have an agreement, does that come back to this board for acceptance of the credit IOU situation we're talking about? Would that come back to the board?
Oh, definitely. It's we would be talking about whether we support the agreement or not, and we would probably take a position for it if it's brought to the California Transportation Commission.
So that's what I suspected, that we would see this again after we have the details worked out with continuing conversation with the STC. This, to me, is it's a request for authority to be in a position to go to an appraisal if staff feels it's necessary on a short timeline. And so I don't see, if I look at this just as what's the ask is for staff to potentially have an appraisal. And we would hear much more detail in terms of the loan payback, IOU mechanics of that. So that's for another day, hopefully in August, maybe it's September, depending on the timeline. But certainly there's conversations that has to happen with staff. So to me, this singular action is pretty straightforward, and pretty simple to empower staff to be able to be in a position to seek out an appraisal and get that requested so that we're in a better position to negotiate with STC. So I'm in support of it.
Supervisor Askew?
Yeah, to echo your comments, Director Smith, and my position is, at this point, we're just giving another tool to our staff to be in the best position to negotiate resolution with the goal to keep control of the corridor so that we can have an option for future trains along this path. I sort of raised the issue, but really this is an issue of how do we maintain ownership and control of this section of right of way for our future plan. So I'm fully supportive. And also I would just ask Dave, I think if you are offering to volunteer to help talk to anyone who can facilitate that negotiation, I give on that. Thank you.
We realize this.
Yeah, I think for me, I just want to say, in terms of staff, I think what staff is trying to do is mitigate where we're at now, right? And part of that is, you know, if I understood it correctly, is be able to do the appraisal, to be able to identify, for us to know verification of the IU credit amount. And also stating that we already have projects in the work that, depending on what that appraisal amount comes out to, could swap with what the CTC is saying, that we can potentially use those projects to offset the cost. Correct. So we want to make sure we identify the appraisal amount. So we already have a calculation based on all the projects we have to be able to say, hey, this is kind of the swap if person. Correct. Yeah.
Mayor Oglesby?
No, let me go.
Bruce?
No, that's.
All right, neither of you.
You don't want to go?
So
We're gonna have to break you two up.
there's something about the SERV project that it seems to be murky in different places when it comes out to our agenda. This credit idea, I think what I'm hearing, and please confirm, Todd, that if we spend X million on these rail projects, we get X dollars credit for spending it.
Yes, we're already either have money dedicated to projects, or we have plans for projects that we're expecting to spend money on. And we would get credit for that, or for those already planned expenses.
And the credit is worth dollars.
It's a way to retire the IOU that the state staff is proposing to resolve this. So it's worth dollars only when you use it in this situation. So it's
Towards a bill.
it's a way, they're trying to give us a way out.
Like a store credit.
Yes.
Yes, and so it's really no cost to us if it was implemented this way. And right now, it's just a discussion among staff as a way to resolve this. So they haven't provided an offer to us to do it this way. We're trying to work out a way to resolve the issue. And we could come back in August or a future date with something different. But there are some other ideas that we're talking about that would also solve the problem without expense to the agency or minimal expense to the agency. And so I'm certainly not ready to talk about all those ideas. I don't even know if they're viable. We're pursuing a lot of different ways of resolving this.
Okay, when we spend the money on the rail projects and the credit is available, is that credit that's worth dollars applicable to other rail projects that we also want to do?
We don't get credit for anything else.
I know, but
Rare.
if we get credit that's worth dollars, can that credit, if we didn't use it on SURF, can it be used somewhere else?
No, we're being given credit to pay down the IOU. We're not being given credit that can be spent on other
Okay,
projects.
so it's a one-time only offer for this situation.
And
The credit.
it's just valuing projects that we're already spending money on, rail projects that we're spending money on.
Okay, the staff, that's good on that. Staff report mentions $165 million price tag, Monterey to Marina. If Monterey wasn't part of that because they don't want it in a Benson Seaside, was there ever a revision downward of that 165 million?
So there's been various updates to the cost of rail service between Monterey and Castroville. And right now, it's the 165 was the replacing the rails and upgrading the right of way.
From Marina to Monterey? That's what the staff report says.
Yes.
So was that reduced downward ever when Monterey said they didn't want it?
No. It was not. And and that's just one component of the cost of service. There was also the cost of vehicles, the cost of a maintenance facility,
Right.
the cost of operations.
I was just looking at that 165 figure in the staff report. So there's a 10-year deadline. We bought in 2003, the branch line. There was a 10-year deadline we didn't meet. That would be 2013. Why didn't we know about this until recently?
In the past, we've had discussions with California Transportation Commission staff informally saying that, understanding that, I mean, we've spent a lot of time trying to bring rail on the branch line. We can document all of that. They understand our effort and they understand the economic environment the reasons why we couldn't do it. And the staff interpretation has always been that our long-term goal to bring back rail has been sufficient to meet the conditions of Prop 116. This 10-year period, I think it fell off everyone's radar. Like it just wasn't something that they realized was there. The Prop 116 requires rail, and within the proposition, the 10-year requirement was within the resolution of the commission. So it's not law. It's essentially advisory, except for it has teeth as long as it's in place.
Okay, last question. Recently, MST and I think TAMC representatives, maybe yourself, I don't recall exactly, told us that no, actually, Prop 116 does allow a busway, whether it's through the Attorney General or somebody else, I forget where. And I think that's changing now, but because it's kind of been in both directions, I wanted to get clarity.
So the California Transportation Commission has a relatively new staff. They haven't, the staff that worked on Prop 116 have all retired. And the staff that's there now are relatively new. They have a new general counsel that's been there for just a month or two. And when she looked at this, her interpretation was that the SURF project in a fixed busway is not consistent with the definition of a rail project that's in Prop 116. Prop 116 says a rail project includes a bunch of things, including a mass transit fixed guideway. Her opinion on this is something that we could challenge. But we don't necessarily want to get in a fight with the California Transportation Commission. We're going to be looking to apply for about $135 million to them for other projects in the next year. I don't really want to get on the bad side of staff and fight over things that we might be able to resolve otherwise.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chuck.
Of course. Sure.
But eventually you're gonna have to challenge the general counsel's determination, right? Eventually.
If we end up,
Well, let me just, because my point is eventually their council will carry the day within their community, right? At that agency, I would think that's what they're there for. So I'm just saying that at a certain point, we're gonna have to say we don't agree with it, whether that's in court or whether that's in writing, because their opinion is opposed to what we're trying to do here. That's the first thing. Second is Bruce said a lot of stuff, and I think we're not gonna decide today but you know, just to put on the radar. Like you said, if Monterey is saying that the rail station is not gonna go into their city, then after a while, we need to stop using Monterey as an endpoint. Right, and so I'm supportive of spending for the appraisal, because I think we need to be in a position to say, whatever you guys are saying the cost of the rail is too much. And this is what we think it is, hopefully if it's lower. But we have a commitment, we just made a commitment, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes ago, with the SURF discussion about maintaining control of the railway. Right, so we're going in that direction unless we change. And so we have to have a fair market value of that. It's just, when I see the appraisal for a portion of the rail line that a community said, well, we don't want it in our community. And I'm not saying don't, because 25 years from now, when the need for rail is paramount, then we'll still have control of it. But I just think that's what the community is hearing us say, that it's not going down there that way, but we're paying for that rail line. It's not coming anytime soon, but you're paying for it. And that's where someone said, maybe we're paying twice. And my last point is, these are just, ain't no question in there, Tom. Okay. So my last point is, because I'm talking to the board, the last point is, it's a credit towards a debt that you already owe. So it's not a positive, right? You're paying down something that you already took home.
Acknowledgement of a debt.
Yeah, acknowledgement of that you owe. Right, so it's a good thing. I mean, we want to pay it back because otherwise, if we don't pay it back, it reverts back to the state ownership. Right, so we have to pay it back.
So practicing selective hearing, I heard you say that you're supportive of
Yes,
the request here in front of us today. Is it, I'm gonna take that as a
Yes.
motion. Is there a second to the motion? I'm gonna take the second from Lamar. I do have a motion and discussion. I'm gonna end discussion there and ask for a roll call.
What's the second?
Lamar.
Thought you said you're going to selective listening, you weren't gonna listen to me.
I'm sorry, what?
I thought you said with selective listening, you weren't gonna listen.
I'm sorry, what? Fell right into it.
I sure did. I was gonna say the third time.
District 1, alternate Gomez.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4, Supervisor Askew.
Aye.
District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
No.
City of Del Rio.
Aye.
City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of Greenfield. City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
No.
City of Monterey.
Aye.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Aye.
City of Sand City.
Aye.
City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. With that, we're gonna go to item 7, and I do want to acknowledge I'm gonna have to step out at some point here. Next. Turn item 7.
All right, thank you. Item 7 is a report that was requested by the board after at the April meeting related to our membership in community groups. And this report was to outline or describe our current activities in community groups. And then it acknowledges that we don't have any intent at this point to join any other groups, but that if we do, we will notify the board.
Item 7. I'm gonna go ahead and see if there's any public input on item 7. Seeing nobody on Zoom, nobody in the room, we'll bring it back to any conversation amongst the board.
The question I have is, does this include MCHA, participation in that? Kind of hospitality association.
We're not currently members of CHA.
Why is that?
It was just as we were looking at other groups that we were members of,
So staff made the decision.
I made a decision at the time. That's been about 2 years ago.
It's made that MCHA is a viable group and that participation that would help with the transportation standpoint, especially when we go to ballot slots and we're gonna hit all good spotting. We can keep them informed, but there's no process. Membership.
That's actually a good point. I agree. And it's an example of why maybe we should consider being a member of them. Because it's an example of where when we were members, we were invited to talk to the group more frequently than we are now that we're not.
I consider I'd support the motion of the intent of the note, but I think it should be MCHA too.
So I don't know if there's a motion, it's just receiving a report, but I would support as well the participation with MCHA in order to engage in those deeper conversations.
Well, just a quick thought on that. I think that discussion would be robust enough that we should probably bring it back to the agenda on the Brown Act, but it's good to hear your feedback now.
If it comes back as a discussion, fine, just to say. I think there's many activities that we can participate in, and the Government Affairs Commission of MCHA would be absolutely an appropriate place to have our staff present at. But I wasn't here for last month's discussion, which I heard was robust. And I would share concerns about paying membership fees to organizations that are actively involved in political lobbying or endorsement of candidates, given that we are all candidates. So I understand there's a staff separation there, but I would have concerns about contributing as members.
Sure.
But participating, absolutely.
Any other comments on receiving this report?
Let Ian go first.
You guys choose. I'm done.
No, I mean, it seems like it's gonna be on the agenda pretty soon here. Because it was supposed to be a report about what he's doing. Now I hear that people want to add another group. So I look forward to having that conversation. Sure.
And I just wanted to draw a distinction between participation and a paying member. When we had the robust discussion, I think everyone was okay with the participation. The crux was whether we want to pay money to a organization that does lobby, even if they're lobbying money, they silo it so that our money isn't part of their advocacy money for elections. But I think the fact is that we are paying members. It's not about participating. It's about being a paying member. And I just want to make that clear.
All right, thank you. All right, see no other hands up, we'll go ahead and consider that report received and proceed. Now we're gonna go to reports from our transportation providers. We'll start with Caltrans. I'm not sure who's taking it.
Scott Eats is on the line.
Okay, Scott.
Hi, all. Good late morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Scott Eads here and
Scott, we're not getting your comments. It sounds like your connection's breaking up.
I have a few items for you. First, I just want to highlight that helpful. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Just still breaking up. Just keep talking for a minute here.
Let me switch body. If you want to go to another transportation provider, I'll hop on after I fix my audio.
Actually, you sound good now, Scott. Go ahead.
Oh, it does? Okay, great. I'll continue then. All right, so I just wanted to announce that Paul Slide is now open, which is south of Regent Slide. So we do have full public access. You do have to access from the south because Regent Slide is still a controlling operation. We have material down over the roadway. It's a top-down slide repair strategy for Regents. However, there's another 4.3 miles of coast that is now open and accessible from the south through Paul Slide. So that's a big job that we were finally able to complete. And then I wanted to note that there's the 24-25 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grants, which is a grant category that Caltrans has, is nearing completion of the evaluation, and we expect to have application or the announcements coming out at the end of this week or early next. And there is a notice of financial opportunity or funding opportunity through the federal government for a new FHWA wildlife pilot project. So $145 million approximately available nationwide 2024. And then the final thing I wanted to say is just as a reminder as we approach the 4th of July holiday that we have a lot of different projects out in construction right now. So please be aware of the workers that are working next to our roadways. Move over. It's the California law, and it's a big appreciation for those folks that are working on the side of the roadways. That's all I have. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions to Scott at this time by directors? I don't see anybody. Thank you. Appreciate your hard work, honestly. Very much appreciate it. Thank you. We'll move on then to the let's see, Air District Director Miller. Director Miller.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can perfectly.
Thank you. Only thing to report is we're continuing with the terminal project. Our employments are way up. We're close to 300,000 employments a year right now, which means 600,000 people if you count them coming and going. Our parking lot is at 100% because we're redoing it, but we're completely maxed out right now. We've approved a concept design for the terminal, and we look forward to adding new air service to the airport. So a lot of good things happening.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions, Carl, by directors? Carl, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
MSC, Mr. Sidoric has left the room. I believe Lisa's here.
I am here. Thank you. I have a couple announcements, mostly related to MST passes. I think I announced last time or the time before, the summer youth pass is still available. We gave away a number of them most recently to a group in South County for the Wahine project to get some youth to the coast for surfing lessons. So loads of fun and happy to be a participant in that. We're launching in July a BOGO, buy one, get one free monthly pass for up to 5 while supplies last. We're using up the last of our CARES Act funding for just about $100,000 worth. So, you know, anyone who wants to save a buck or two on passes, we're doing BOGO until 2025, June 2025. And then lastly, I wanted to also let you all know that MST has a van pool program. People can join for some of the areas that MST doesn't necessarily cover very well, and people who form a van pool group can get up to, well, they get $450 per month for the offsetting the lease amount with Commute with Enterprise. So that attempts to reach other areas of the community that we don't necessarily do well in. That's all I have.
Is there any questions or comments for Lisa? Yes. Mary.
So, can you just tell me, is that available and is it in play and is it being utilized in Big Sur?
I don't know if it's being utilized in Big Sur. I'll have to get back to you on that. A
But
lot of our van pool usage is related to military at the moment, military services, which we don't do anymore. But it's available to, residents in Monterey County. And they can just go directly to Commute with Enterprise, or they can contact our mobility people.
So if there were a group of workers, say at one of the hotels, they would be able to take advantage of this, drive the van back and forth.
Yes. Yep. All they have to do is report the ridership usage to us. And pay Commute with Enterprise, and they deduct that from the lease amount.
And does the employee have to pay for this, or is this being picked up?
It depends on the employer. Sometimes they'll help out with that cost. Other times they won't, so it'll be up to the van pool group to share in that cost.
So it's not a program that you're providing for free access to?
It's not free access. We're providing, say the van costs $14.50 a month. MST will put in that $450. So the shared cost then would be $1,000 for the group. And the bigger the group, obviously, the less they're gonna pay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Lisa. Moving on then to the Air District, Mr. Stedman's not here, but Mr. Twain, so do you have any comments? It was Richard here? I don't think so. Yeah. All right, then we move on, then we'll, reports by, reports of meetings attended by board members, attempts, expense, we've been out spending money.
None of them were.
Very good. I want to be executive director report, Todd.
Thank you. I'd like to start by introducing 2 new interns at TAMC. If Madison Springfield wants to stand up and wave, and Natalie Gomes, if you want to say hello. Natalie, this is your first week. Yeah, so we're excited to have a couple interns working at the agency, learning about transportation and what we do and contributing to our work. So welcome, both of you.
Welcome aboard.
It was mentioned earlier that we are hosting a California Transportation Commission meeting tomorrow and Friday in Monterey at the conference center. This is a great opportunity. The last time that we had a commission in Monterey County was 2018 at the Gonzales Town Hall. And when they the thing about having them in the county is we get to show them what we're working on in the area. And when they see our projects, they can relate to them and understand what we're talking about. So it's a really good opportunity. We had a lot of residual value from the Gonzales Town Hall meeting. And so we're looking at same opportunity here. So it's going to be busy this afternoon and tomorrow for TAMC staff leading some activities. wanted to announce that as a residual of the public outreach effort along the Highway 68 corridor, there was a lot of discussion about the cut through traffic that goes through Toro Park along Highway 68. And TAMC staff led an effort to work with the community on some potential solutions. And there's going to be a temporary closure that the transportation agency is contributing money to fund. Closing Toro Park for a period of time, and that's going to start on July 12th. So on the 12th, that will be implemented. There will be a lot of changeable message signs and other information for the community to be warned and explain what's going on. And we'll see how the closure impacts the detour traffic for a while school's out, and then what school will be in, and we'll see how it affects it. And then the community can decide if they want to do something permanent or change. So excited to have that starting up.
Right, thank you. I just wanted to say what a great job TAMC did at this community meeting. It was really impressive. And I just also want to be sure that it is not Toro Park that is being impacted. It's the Toro Park Estates, the residents on the other side of the road.
Correct. I'm talking about the homes on the Toro Park Estates and on that side. And it was Doug Bilsey, TAMC staff, who led it. He did a great job.
Great job.
And then finally, just want to remind everyone that we do not have a board meeting or any committee meetings in July. So our next TAMC board meeting is August 28th.
Any other issues? Anybody want to discuss? No.
Thank you very much. I want to give a special shout out to Scott Eads and to Caltrans for the work that they've been doing on Highway 1. I know Scott mentioned the closure of Paul Slide, but oh my God, all of the other things that have happened on Highway 1 this year, and the work that you, under your leadership, and the work that your staff has done, the workers, it's just been absolutely amazing. And it would be a shame for this meeting to close without my giving a personal thanks to you, Scott, for all of the oversight that you provided in ensuring that that road gets open and fixed and ready for all people, tourists and workers and residents alike, to be able to go from, say, San Francisco to LA. So just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Very well said.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I didn't want to add to the time limits on when we were talking about the branch line and all of that. There were some expressions from a board member, or a couple of board members concerning Monterey's decision or expression. I just want to make sure it's clear, unless I missed something. I've been on the board since 2014. Prior to that, Frank Solicito was representing the city of Monterey as a council member for, I believe, 6 or 8 years. I'm not aware of any vote that's ever come to the city of Monterey where we've made some declaration. Maybe it's been expressed by opinions of electeds or mayors of whether the branch line could come into Monterey. So I just want to say that that's an undecided topic. We still want to participate. We always want to keep the door open. Where it ends, I don't know. When that time comes, it may be 15, 20 years from now, and circumstances may change. But I just wanted to say that I don't think we've ever had a vote, and maybe we can have staff go back and research that for the city of Monterey, that we would say no to branch line coming into Monterey. So I just want to keep that as an open door, that those discussions have never come to a point where we've had a final opinion. And I don't want to measure rumors, and I don't want to measure expressions that are out there in the community as to whether or not Monterey has ever said that there's a date in the past where we've said no to coming into Monterey. So that branch line between our opinion and my expression in representing the city council is that I'm on the rail subcommittee, and have always fully kept the door open for the best available transportation that may include rail, and Monterey would certainly be a partner in that. We just don't know what scope of where something could happen in the future. So the door is always open. So unless somebody can tell me that there's been a vote where the city of Monterey has said, no, I don't believe there is. So just want to squash any of that kind of rumor and say that we are fully participating in partnership with TAMC in future rail to whatever degree it may be.
Under the heading that if something you wish to put on the future agenda, we'll get to do that maybe for the future.
Yeah, and for future, whenever it's necessary.
Anybody else? I don't see anybody, so we'll consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.